An illusion is the perception of something objectively existing in such a way as to cause misinterpretation of its actual nature. There are people who believe that right now we are living in a false reality, an artificial construct. Yes, much like the movie The Matrix. Now, this idea has blossomed in the minds of men, and so people have begun to indulge in the idea that the earth is not what we think it is. The moon, the sun, they are not what we've been told they are. Some even go as far as to suggest that perhaps we are living in a completely alternate timeline than the one we were living in several years ago. And some think that this reality is a straight-up computer simulation. So I want to discuss this because I want to open you up for yet another alternative way of looking at things. Another way of looking at reality. Is it really your perception that truly shapes the world around you? Or is it what you believe? What is reality? What is real? The object in front of you, how does it work? Why does it work? Well, it is because everything has a code. You see, mankind has found numerous ways in which to hack those codes, giving him the ability to quite literally manipulate matter, the very basis of which is binary code, zeros and ones. We know the code for making plastics. In other words, we know the chemical composition and calculated formula for manufacturing the molded casing for that device. The same goes for the illuminated screen, hardware and software. It is just the coding, the numbers. Now that device in front of you, aside from it being just a machine, it processes information very similar to the way we all process information. Powered by the same source. This is why both computers and people can get viruses, whether they are digital or biological. They both essentially do the same thing. They hack the coding. So in the case of all matter, it is coded according to atomic structure. And like within a computer, that code can be altered and it can be edited in a sense. For example, we all breathe gases, oxygen and various other elements. Atomically, these gases are all made of the same thing: protons, neutrons, electrons. It is the number of protons that make the difference. Atoms with the same number of protons tend to be attracted to one another, and they form an atomic matrix. And so when you keep zooming out, what you get is matter, in the form of what is seemingly a solid, liquid, or gas. This is the form matter comes in our physical existence. Just groups of atoms held together by electromagnetic forces. You come in contact with matter, on the atomic level, you do not. And all these things can be represented in numbers, frequencies. And because man knows this, he can manipulate those frequencies to a certain degree. We can steer the flow of electrical energy. We can use numbers to create atomic formulas, to make compounds that will hack the coding in your body. These are called drugs. Folks, once you clearly understand what makes reality reality, you can understand how powerful mankind has become with editing our world. Most people by now are familiar with the Mandela Effect. Let me talk about this for a moment. People are detecting or are experiencing changes in our history as we know it to be. Edits. Now, I am not easily convinced with many of the pieces of evidence presented to suggest unexplainable changes in published works. But I have to admit, there are some things that have been presented that are quite compelling. Now let's consider this for a moment. think? In what ways would this be possible? And you have to keep in mind that people are aware of these claimed alterations. Now, this is very important. Let me explain. See, people forget how this whole thing started. That's the Mandela Effect. Who started it? Do you remember? Author and paranormal consultant Fiona Broome, right? Her Mandela Effect was meant to describe the phenomena of memories based on alternate history. An idea that she came up with at DragonCon. DragonCon, folks. This woman is a ghost lover, the same woman who was the celebrity guest of honor at the official Salem Witches Halloween Ball in Salem, Massachusetts back in 2008-2009. Ladies and gentlemen, this lady goes from conference to conference, hanging out and dancing with the devil. And I don't even know if she knows it or not. But to do what she does, she should be very aware. And you wonder where this idea of the Mandela Effect, which has infected many people, comes from. It comes from these dark forces. Why do you think the Bible has so conveniently become an object of this new craze? It is intended to diminish your trust in it, amongst other things. You see, the secret to creating a false reality is getting you to believe something in spite of what you are sensing. If you were to take a child who knows nothing about the moon, then you could probably convince that child that the moon is very close and is actually within our atmosphere. Why? Because the moon at times does look close enough for you to be able to reach out and touch it. And the child would probably accept this as fact until they gather more information about it. What's interesting is that child may very well hold on to that idea in spite of new information. And because there are so many people putting it out there that the moon is fake, the moon was built, it's not as far as they say it is, we never landed there, so the child realizes that this thing is open for interpretation. And so now every child growing up these days is brought into a world where we are just living in our own individual alternate realities, right? Anything goes. And that is what they want. Mass confusion. And it's working very well, I might add. People's favorite thing to say these days is, I don't know. Nobody really knows for certain. You know, whatever happened to making up your mind and having faith? Nobody has an explanation for anything anymore. They don't know what the sun is anymore. They don't know what the moon is anymore. They don't know what the earth is anymore. They don't know what space is anymore. They don't know if the recent extreme weather is being created by man or nature. They don't know if we were created by God or aliens. Today, there are so many gods and aliens. People don't know who's who anymore. Think about all the names people use to identify who is seemingly the same God. People are confused. They don't know if what used to be evil is evil anymore. Look at how things like witchcraft are embraced these days. It is everywhere. That seductive devil him. He's got everyone running around looking for the solid truth. And just when they think they found the answer, it turns out just to be someone else's best guess. And people grab hold of these things. They do. No matter what contradicts their belief, they hold on to that idea no matter what, no matter how crazy it sounds. Now that is by definition being delusional. You could call someone who believes in God delusional, but see, the idea of God is generally not viewed as something stupid or crazy. You see, it is all a matter of perception. Keep in mind that everything in this reality, this universe, is all in our heads. Everything we see, hear, touch, taste, smell, sense, that is our brains decoding information. So it should not be hard for you to now understand how someone would be able to hack those codes. What if I took something like corn, and in the corn I placed a code? And so when you eat that corn, that code is processed by the body. And that code can actually change your body's programming. It will literally mutate your DNA. It can change your emotions. It can create an addiction. That's what food and drugs do. There are literally ways to hack your body because you are just consuming a mass of codes that you can hack with your mind. So yes, they have the knowledge and technology to do things such as make you sense things that are not there. They can implant thoughts and ideas easily. Let me give you an example. These augmented reality games, these filters people use in mobile applications and on cameras to place digital images within a live shot. Well, once upon a time, Google AI teamed up with virtual reality to create a hallucination machine, one that could induce hallucinations like that of LSD. See, this machine would put you in a virtual reality world that learns from your responses and actually morphs the world around you as you progress through it. It was the researchers from Sussex University in the UK who were behind the development of this. Using Google's deep dream system, now how many of you knew Google had this thing? It simulates a neural network that detects patterns in images. It can then create patterns, overloading the user with certain repetitive details. So much so that the user begins to hallucinate. If Google's AI can do this, what do you think an AI system like the one at CERN can do? You know, the one that is connected to everything, knows everything about everyone, and knows what people are going to do before they do it? Yes, it is that sophisticated. See, the main control mechanisms have already been put in place, folks. There are no real new plans for us. They are all old plans that they are now trying to see through to the end, which they know is near. So they are in a bit of a rush. Now, I did say that horrifying events would ease up after Halloween, and for the most part they have. But next year, expect to see a compound of events that will trump this year's events. With all the confusion today, it may be difficult to stay awake and aware in this world. That is what this system is designed to do. They may not be able to physically plug us all into a generator as we sleep and live in a computer simulated environment, but they can certainly get you to believe you do. Your only true defense is discernment. And while everyone is wrapped up in their own false realities, you may be able to use it to break free of all these theories that may be confusing you, so that you can see what world you really live in.